Hey, Sam.
Hey Bev, how's it going?
It's going much better. Because that's beer number 4 today. Woohoo!
Woo! I'm already a half beer in. I have the other half, so I couldn't make the fun noise, but I brought another one in here with me.
Nice. And don't
Yes.
worry, I didn't just drink the other 3 beers. I went kayaking today. So I drank
Oh,
three
okay.
beers during the 3.5, 4 hours it took to float down the creek.
That's pretty responsible. That's not that bad.
It was totally fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And we ate lunch. We did a little hike up to a cave. We beat the
Ooh,
rain.
that's fun.
Yeah, it was a good Sunday.
Sounds
Well,
like
I mean,
it.
it was mostly a good Sunday. One of my chickens almost got murdered earlier today, so I
Well,
guess it wasn't a perfect Sunday,
you
but
know, it could be worse. It
that's
could be
true.
worse.
She was not murdered, so
Yes.
it's a good Sunday.
So if she would have been murdered, that would be really bad.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't have gone kayaking because that would have looked a little cold-hearted. My chicken just got murdered by my dog.
Now I'm just gonna go float down the river and drink about it.
Drink about it.
We used to say that, me and my friends Eric and James, that's what we used to say. I think some of my other theater people too. We just drink about it. Yeah, that was our big thing because,
I like that.
binge drinking college, all that. So
That's true. Yeah, I don't
I've
binge
slowed my
drink.
roll.
Yeah, I don't binge drink hardly at all anymore,
No,
or
no,
it
no.
seems very rarely.
Yes. It just, the hangovers when you're older are just not as fun. So,
Mm-mm. And they're not worth it, if I'm being
no,
totally honest.
no,
No,
they're not.
but 3 beers while I'm floating down a river for 3.5 hours, no hangover from that.
Yeah. No, you probably burned it all off as you're, doing your thing and hiking up into a cave and all that. So,
So true.
yeah. So what are you drinking now?
So I am drinking a beer by Good People Brewing Company, and it's called Urban Farmer. And
Oh,
it's a farm fresh farmhouse ale.
nice.
I was all excited when I got it. My friend Kelly came and stayed with me just a few nights ago. What night was that? It was Thursday night, so today's Sunday, so this is the day we record. So yeah, it was just a few nights ago. She came up from Kentucky. Kentucky? No, that's not right. Alabama.
Oh,
She
big
moved to
difference.
Alabama. Yeah. From Arizona, shortly after I moved here from Arizona. So I was really excited when she moved to Alabama because I was like, hey, Alabama's driving distance to Ohio, so we'll still get to see each other. Whereas, Arizona and Ohio isn't really driving distance. I
Yeah.
haven't seen the
No.
only Arizona friends I've seen have been the ones that have come here because I haven't had to go back there yet. So yeah, she came up, just stayed the night on her way to Michigan because that's where she's from. And she was
Oh.
road tripping up to Traverse City to go stay with her dad for a month
Oh,
and
wow.
hang out. Yeah.
That's not a joke of a drive just from where I am to Traverse City. It's a couple hours. So,
Yeah, she was stopping in South Bend, Indiana, and then going up
okay.
after leaving here. Yeah, so she took a good 3 days to get there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's a long drive, but it's beautiful up there.
That's what
So,
she says. I'm
mhm.
hoping that she goes up there and spends more time because I kind of want to go up there just to go see the UP because I've heard the UP is pretty amazing.
Well, even from the Traverse City, the UP is kind of far away because it's so far over. I'm literally using my hand as a map as I describe it because I'm from
Isn't that how
Michigan.
everybody from Michigan describes
Yeah,
things from Michigan? They hold their
yeah,
hand up,
pretty
got the
much.
mitten. Yeah. That's how she showed me where Traverse City was. And then I pointed on her hand where Fowlerville was.
Oh yeah, you're the girl I record with that I've never met, but we're BFFs. Yeah, she lives here.
Which reminds me, I totally forgot to tell you that last week when we had my husband's coworker Troy here, he's
Yeah.
from Michigan also. I can't remember the name of the
Oh,
town he's from, but it's super close to Fowlerville.
no way.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember the name. But yeah, he goes there and vacations every summer.
Shoot, that's awesome.
I want to say it was called Lake Gunn or Lake Gunnison or something like that. Yeah, maybe
Oh,
that's not
I
right.
don't know. We have a lot of
Jared and
lakes.
yeah, Jared and a bunch of his coworkers went up there once, a few summers ago. Michigan is
Okay.
super pretty. I'm from Ohio and I like Michigan. Yeah.
Is it? Hold on, I'm Googling it. Is this in Michigan? Yes, Lake Guntersville.
Maybe that's it. I'll have to ask
Yeah.
Jared. For
Wait,
some reason, that doesn't sound familiar, but
I don't even know if that's right. I'm wait, what? And then I was see on the map, Chattanooga. I'm that's not Michigan.
that's not Michigan. Tennessee? Yeah. Chattanooga?
Yeah.
Well, no, Chattanooga is also like a river, so there's probably lots of towns on the
Geography
Chattanooga.
is so fun.
Geography was never my thing. I don't know why we're trying this like while we're recording.
I
I probably
mean,
just sounded like I don't know anything.
oh wait, but there is a Gun Lake, Michigan.
Okay, that's where they went, Gun
So
Lake.
there you
Yeah.
go. You knew what you were talking about.
There we go. Circled back.
Yes. I love Google so much.
Google sure does make my life easier. That's for sure.
Yes. Gun Lake has a very lovely tourist website.
I mean,
Tourism.
it's a lake. It's got a lot of tourist
Okay.
homes in it, so.
Yeah. It's like on the westish side of the state. So, yeah. Not super close to me, but, not very far away either. So,
Michigan's a pretty big state. I know like it doesn't necessarily look like it when you're looking at it on a map, but like if you drove from the southern part of Michigan all the way to like the northern part of Michigan, you're looking at
hmm.
like easily like a 6 to 7 hour
Oh,
drive.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unlike Ohio, you can drive from like the south side to the north side in like 3.5 hours.
Yeah. I think this is actually like really close to where I got most of my goats, which is kind of funny.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
kind of
it's
funny.
not super far away. But anyways,
Oh yeah, so what are you drinking?
so I went to Walmart earlier today. You know how you like go someplace and you're like, I need these three things, and then you walk out with a cart full of stuff? Yeah, that's what I did today. So I went down the booze aisle and they had a Leinenkugel like shandy box that had three different kinds in it.
Oh yeah.
So I'm drinking their watermelon shandy.
Oh, that
It's
sounds
pretty
delicious.
it's pretty good. I was surprised. I didn't have like high expectations, but it's pretty nice. You know?
It sounds much better than the watermelon cucumber juice that I bought at Trader Joe's yesterday. It just tastes like cucumber. My husband
Really?
put vodka in it and that didn't fix it, so it must not taste very
Oh.
good.
Did he put flavored vodka in it though?
No, just plain vodka. We don't have a very
Mm.
diverse liquor cabinet because neither of us really drink liquor very often, so we just kind of like have the
Oh.
basics to build a drink with.
Next time you're in town or wherever you can get vodka. I don't know if the Amish have vodka, probably not.
Nope, the Amish don't do
Ugh,
vodka.
darn it. Maybe you could try to like pick up a watermelon vodka and throw it in there.
Oh, that
You
might
know.
taste good. Yeah, I told him it needed more sugar. I said less cucumber, more sugar.
You
More
just put like a
watermelon?
packet of stevia in there and see if it helps.
My neighbor's growing stevia in her garden. Maybe she'll just give
What?
me a few leaves and I can just like seep it in there. Yeah, I don't know what she uses it for because I
Oh,
asked her if she was going to throw it in smoothies because, that kind of made
yeah.
sense. And she's like, no, I don't really like smoothies. I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't really like smoothies either. I don't know why. I don't like to chew on my vegetables after they've been pureed.
Mm.
Like, doesn't feel good in my mouth.
Yeah, I just don't like the cleanup afterwards and how I like have to do some work to get it prepped to go in there. But I don't
That's a good
mind
point.
them after it's made. But yeah,
Hmm.
what else would you do with stevia if you're not gonna, I don't
I don't
know.
know. I'll have to
Huh.
ask her what she does with it
Yeah,
because I'm sure she does something super cool.
might just have to Google it someday too. I'm a
What
big
can you do with fresh stevia?
I'm a big fan of stevia. I just picked up more of it today too. Yay, no aspartame.
Yep.
Woo.
Aspartame gives me a headache. Can't do it.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That and it's just, cancer,
That
bad.
too. No thanks.
Bad. I think it's really funny because I used to work in a hospital and they actually outlawed all sugary drinks, like all pop and like juices and things like that, unless it was diet. So I'm like,
What?
you're literally just trading in diabetes for cancer. Like, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna be completely healthy, I think you should just get rid of it all. But then you're gonna have some
Right?
very angry people in your hospital if you don't have like one or the other, because you have families coming in that might be completely healthy, and you're not gonna have options. Like that's not good.
Every hospital I've been to lately has a Starbucks in it. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't tell me that those drinks are healthy.
Oh
Delicious.
no.
Yes. But yeah.
They actually did have a Starbucks and an Einstein's Bagels in there and a Jamba Juice, I think. So they
Oh.
had other options. I don't know if like I don't know. It was just really confusing to
The
me.
hospital sounds like a mall.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like one
Can
of
you
the
get your
biggest
nails done there?
it's like one of the biggest hospital systems in the state. So,
Oh, there we go.
yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it is freaking huge too. And they even have like in the cardiac part, they have like a total heart healthy restaurant in there too that has like nothing that tastes good.
Mm.
Um, because it's for heart health.
And there's no salt on it.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of food, I think this is a good time to segue into our mini, I don't know if we want to call it corrections corner, because we're really
So,
just building on
yeah,
what we were
no, because
talking about.
I don't think that we have any corrections to make because there was nothing that we said that was incorrect per se, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we don't have any corrections because I don't think anything that we said was inaccurate. It was just incomplete, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like once we were done and I listened to it again, I just like sort of face palmed myself.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness, like we left out so much stuff. So yeah, so we'll see how long this takes. This may end up just being a mini-sode. We'll throw it up midweek, or we'll build on this and make it a full episode. So yeah, we don't know
Yes.
what this is while we're talking about it. Yay!
Yay! Woo! Yeah, that's how we roll. By the seat of our pants.
It makes podcasting much more fun.
It does.
So we're gonna follow up on animal byproducts in animal feed. And the number one thing that I realized that we left out, and I felt like it went without saying, and since it's Sunday now, the episode went out Friday. I don't know how many people have listened to it yet. Nobody has called us out on it yet, which
No.
might indicate that our listeners think charitably about the things that we say. Like they don't automatically assume the worst. But if somebody just
Yet.
heard that episode like randomly without any follow-up or like knowing anything about us, they might have thought the worst of us because we forgot to indicate that animal byproducts in animal feed is okay if it's animal byproducts from healthy animals, number one,
Hmm.
and if it's only fed to animals that are not vegetarians.
Right.
I'm not okay with feeding cows animal byproducts because if a cow fell dead in the middle of the pasture, the other cows wouldn't run to it and start going to town. But if a
Right.
chicken fell dead in my pasture, all of my other chickens would run for it and go to town. So
Yeah,
there's like a clear difference.
exactly.
So I felt like that had to be said.
Yeah, no, and like you linked to some really good articles in those show notes too. So I feel like if people did get kind of like, what are these girls talking about? Like they had the opportunity to click on the show notes and it does like support what we were talking about and just kind of made it better. After I read them, I was like, oh yeah, this is totally what we were thinking. We just didn't verbalize it completely because we did it kind of on the fly like we do everything else.
Right. Well, it was like Bev saw one package. Oh, which by the way, I'm super mad because I went shopping at Trader Joe's again on Saturday. This time though, I bought the free range chicken instead of just like the all natural chicken. When the free range chicken is in stock, that's always what I grab because we don't eat a ton of meat, so I
Hmm.
spend the extra money on getting the better meat when I
Oh,
can.
that's a good idea.
When I was opening my freezer and loading it in, the all natural chicken was what I had had in there from the last time I went in there, and that said vegetarian fed on it also. I was like, son of a bitch. I'm
Oh,
still gonna eat it because I'm not gonna let it go to waste because I think that that's even worse. We would
right,
never waste an animal's death in this house, like ever.
right.
It makes me so unhappy when we throw food away. I try so hard.
I
Um,
know. I'm really trying with my stepkids too to like my mom, I don't know if my mom said it or if I just saw it on TV, but she'd always like be like, there are starving children in Africa. So I'm trying not to like pull that because yes, there are starving children in Africa, but I feel like maybe if I explain to them like, hey, you see all those chickens outside running around? This thing on your plate was one of those and it died for you. So you're gonna clean your plate.
there we go. I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, they should know they're starving children in Africa too, but
Right. Well, and there's
that's not
starving
relatable to them.
children in the United States. There's starving children
Yes.
everywhere. So,
Exactly. Exactly. But I don't feel like they can relate to that. You can say that and it'll go like in one ear out the other. So,
yeah, that's so true.
especially since, kids, especially kids on summer break, I feel like they're always hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're in school, they have like a routine and they're like hungry at the normal appropriate times, but during summer they just get bored, so their brain goes to hunger. So it's like, oh my goodness. Like our kids literally just ended school this past Friday and they're already starting to fall into that trap and it's been 2 days and it's technically the weekend. So it's like here we go.
Like, yeah, I just went to the grocery store not that long ago. I went to Trader Joe's again yesterday. Or, well, I went to Trader Joe's yesterday, but I went to our regular grocery store a few days before that. And I was walking down the snack aisle. I normally skip the middle because I almost never need anything out of it.
Hmm.
But I was like, the kids are home. They've been complaining to me that they want some snacks. So I went and bought them like some graham bunnies and like cheddar bunnies and like cheese sticks and yogurt and stuff like that. No joke, they had eaten all of it in like 2 days.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, dude, I go to the grocery store like once or twice a month. Like this was supposed to last until like July.
You're gonna have to teach them how to ration like they're surviving in the wild or
Right.
like
Well,
a legit homestead.
they're probably like, Mom never buys snacks, so we better eat it all now before she eats it and we don't get any of it.
Maybe you'll have to like write their names on it to like, okay, this one's Aurora.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Well, luckily I won't have to do that because Orion's gone for the next 3 weeks. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
then he'll be
Was
back for
that
a week.
his grandparents' trip or?
It's a different grandparents trip. He has
Mm.
grandparents in Missouri and they really wanted to see him and they called me this last week and really wanted to get him there. And by some, I don't know what it was, but somehow on Friday we were able to book him a flight to Missouri for the next day.
Oh,
And it
wow.
wasn't like an arm and a leg and I didn't have to sell either of them to get it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's why I got to go to Trader Joe's because we drove to Columbus like out of nowhere yesterday.
Oh.
Like it was
Oh, okay.
Friday morning. We found the flight and we were like, oh hey, yeah, you can go to your grandma's house because it wasn't gonna work because there weren't any available. They were all sold out. But we
Hmm.
were just checking daily to see if one of them popped up, and it popped up. And I thought that the day before they would like quadruple the prices, but it was the same as if we were gonna book it 3 weeks out. So.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, might as well take it. And then you can do it now, get that trip done. And then he'll do another trip where he goes river rafting with grandparents in Oregon. And then he has marching band practice for the rest of the summer. So
Ooh,
it's a busy kid
nice.
for 12.
Yeah.
And now I have to take care of the chickens. Maybe I should
Oh.
have thought this through before I let him go away for so long.
Oh, darn. Uh, but so that's why I saw on your Instagram that you drove to Columbus. I was like, why is she going to Columbus now? Because I just stalk your life, but
Oh,
really
yeah.
only, talk to you over the phone once a week. But yeah, I saw that you said our tumbler kept your coffee warm the whole drive.
Yeah, it was still warm on the way back too. We were in
Oh,
Columbus all
wow.
day. So
That's
that thing
awesome.
keeps hot beverages hot for a ridiculously long amount of time.
Well, on the website where I got them from, it says hot beverages for 3 hours. So that went past 3 hours, I assume.
It did. It went way past 3 hours, but it was a warm day, and the interior of the rental car is black, so
Oh,
maybe
oh,
it
maybe
wasn't
it
all the
helped
tumbler.
it. Yeah. We'll pretend. No
We'll pretend
guarantees,
that the
people.
tumbler is that cool. All right, back to our animal feed talk.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
That's all right. We like tangents. We're
It
good at
was a
those.
journey.
It's a good tangent. Well, this
Yes.
is this is how listeners get to know us a little more by like
Yes.
hearing about our lives,
About us
right?
not being able to stay on topic. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
But yes, so, one of the things we talked about before we pressed record today was the whole mad cow disease thing, because that is one of the reasons why there's an animal byproduct scare.
Yes, yeah. So, and I wish I had all of the stats in front of me. I couldn't find any of them, oddly enough. Maybe I didn't Google hard enough. But yeah, sometime in the early 2000s, mad cow disease became a thing.
Yes.
Or I think that mad cow disease was like always a thing. It's called like BSC. I'll let Sam say what the word is.
I see you're throwing me under the bus.
I did. I'm
So,
sorry.
just to let everybody know, Bev and I, for like a minute straight, tried to say this out loud to each other. So, if I can't say it, she can't say it either. Um, Bovine spongiform encephalopathy.
You got it.
Kind of.
Encephalopathy. Oh, dang it. I lost it.
Encephalopathy. It's weird because it's got that PH and then another P. So your brain's like PP, but it's like the FP
Yeah,
sound.
it's the oh, that's what's wrong with the word.
Yes.
There we go. Encephalopathy.
There you go. You nailed
Got it.
it. You
All
nailed
right.
it. But we'll put a link to this in the show notes so you guys it's literally in the first sentence so you
Yeah.
can see what it is.
You can see what we're reading. But yeah, mad cow disease is the thing that came about because we were feeding cows the ground up parts of other cows that had this BSE, also known as mad cow disease. And when that gets into the food source, it causes that cow to get that disease as well. I feel like I said
Yes.
that in very elementary terms. I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
No, no, no. That makes sense. I feel like if somebody's drinking along with us and, doing chores or something, sometimes it's okay to water it down a little bit.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So then you don't have to like think too hard while you're listening to our podcast because that's not the point
Exactly.
of our podcast.
Right. We're kind of like reality TV. You just want to kind of shut your brain off a little bit, but it's okay to learn something along the way as long as it's not like, I don't know, rocket science or something.
Right. We're a little less dramatic. We try to be
Yes.
a little less dramatic.
Let's try. Or
Oh.
dramatic in different ways.
So yeah, so that goes back to the it's not okay to feed animals that are not carnivores
Right.
pieces of other animals. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a duh. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I feel strange that I have to say that out loud, and I'm a little
Yeah.
exasperated by it.
But I mean, I just feel like in anything people try to find shortcuts, and this was just like a different kind of gross shortcut that wasn't even necessary. I mean, come on. It's just
Right?
weird.
Well,
It's
and
just weird.
the other thing about it too is so like yeah, this happened and then as like backlash or like because we were scared, like when did it become okay for people who didn't know anything about farming to create the rules around farming?
Yeah.
Like why do consumers get to decide that no animal gets to be fed feed with animal byproducts in it because of this like scare that
Mm-hmm.
happened? Because like if we're pulling animal byproducts from animals that aren't healthy and trying to ground it up and feed it to other animals, like we shouldn't be eating those animals either.
Yeah.
So like the whole thing should have been discarded. So like I don't think that should be a thing either.
That makes total sense. Yeah. Absolutely.
But because of like these two instances of, grinding up parts of sick animals and feeding them to animals that are omnivores and grinding up cows and feeding them to cows who aren't even carnivores, like we don't put animal byproducts in any of our feed.
Right. I feel like with a lot of this stuff and, any kind of even government regulation type thing, not even just consumer based, there's an all or nothing mentality. And it's just a matter of convenience to standardize things even when they shouldn't be standardized. So you say, okay, animal byproducts are good for all animals, which is not true. Saying no animal byproducts for any animals, not good. But sometimes I feel like because people get scared by mad cow disease, which is a very scary thing, or any kind of sickness, really, the snap decision is just to outlaw it all and to remain ignorant, really, because you're not educating yourself if you're saying it's bad for all, no matter what. It's just easier to put a blanket proxy over something.
Yeah, it's like a pendulum swing. Like
Yeah,
I'm hoping that the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way so that there can be like somewhere with a fair middle ground, but
exactly.
yeah.
But that takes time and that takes people getting on the same page. And when things might become regulated, I mean, then with politicians and everything and just government agencies, they're quote unquote in bed with certain people. It makes it more complicated and it makes it so it's harder to get that granularity in there because the more granular you are, the harder it is to regulate. So I think that's why some of this stuff takes a lot of time and a lot of redos because once you do something, like say no animal byproducts, it's like really hard to change people's minds because then they have to rework everything they just changed.
Yeah.
So it's like if they would have slowed down in the first place and realized what they were doing instead of their pants being on fire, and making
Right.
snap decisions. And like, you and I, we stay away from things like religion and politics for the most part on this podcast because it's not worth arguing and getting people fired up about. I was a little like thinking about it a little bit last week when I was like, oh, we talk about food a lot, which is totally fine with me because I've learned a ton, but it could be a really touchy subject for people.
That's true. Well,
So,
and and my intent with our talks about food, it's not to make anybody like feel bad or guilty
no,
about the
no,
decisions
no.
that they make about food. It's just simply to, I think, like just like peel the curtain back a little bit about some of
Right,
it. Just because when
exactly.
you're armed with that information, you might have the ability to make different decisions.
Right.
Not that one decision is like better than another necessarily. I like to say that in a perfect world, I would do this and this, but I don't live in a perfect world. I live in this world.
Right.
So, like, we eat frozen pizza for dinner sometimes, like, more nights in a row than I would care to admit.
There's nothing wrong
But,
with frozen pizza.
yeah, I know.
Not all the time. I mean, if you were eating it every single night, then it might be like, okay, Bev.
Yeah,
There's probably
intervention
like
time.
a shit ton of sodium in there. You might want to
Right,
watch
I know.
it.
Nobody needs that much salt.
No. But yeah, and I hope, like, I feel like our listeners are slowly becoming our tribe. And I feel like they're different. They might be different than us, but at the same time, I really hope they have an open mind and, a thirst to learn like we do. So hopefully we haven't pissed anybody off because that was not our intention.
Well, and like these conversations are ever evolving. Like we had the one conversation about animal byproducts and feed because that was just like our knee-jerk reaction to something that I saw on a label and we chatted about it.
Yeah.
But then as I wrote the show notes and I was pulling together, like stuff to give people for extra reading, we came across, more information and we just built on that.
Yeah.
So I think a
Exactly.
lot of episodes are going to be like that.
Yeah, because we don't organize anything. I was listening to My Favorite Murder on I think yesterday while I was getting ready, and they were like, "Yeah, we totally have structure to our podcast." And if they're I don't know what like their listener base is, but I'm sure it's freaking huge because now they have a fan club.
I think
Um,
that they're the number one podcast in comedy and in murder.
Jeez.
So,
So they're kind of a big deal and they don't have structure and they have corrections corner. So, I feel like if they can do it, we can do it. It's fine.
so maybe we're okay.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right.
And one of the things that I found really interesting while I was going through and looking at these links, like one of the things that makes it so hard to get back to like the way that animals would eat if given, like a real natural diet that they would eat if they were given the choice between a ton of things is like I linked to this A Greener Worlds website and I'll link to it again in these show notes in case you missed it in the last one. But their animal welfare approved standards requires that no animal byproducts be in feed for any animal. But
Ah,
like, we've talked about how that is a little misguided because like if a chicken fell dead in the pasture, the rest of my chickens would go and eat it.
right.
So we can't hold animals to the same standards that we hold human beings because they're not,
No,
right? Like, because we would never
exactly.
eat people
No, we're
because
not.
we're
We're not.
humans.
We're not Jeffrey Dahmer.
Well, I mean, I
No,
guess there are some humans. We just talked about a murder podcast, and then I totally skipped over the fact that there are other humans that eat humans, but I'm gonna throw it out there and say that the
most.
majority of human beings don't eat other human beings.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm just saying, the majority of chickens would eat the chicken next to them and not
Oh
think twice
yeah.
about it.
Oh yeah. Our chickens love to pick up mice and baby birds and eat those, so I don't see it being any different. And then even some broody hens that hatch chicks end up eating their babies.
That's true. Yeah.
So
I have
there's
heard
that.
that before too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, animals they're just not people. So, holding them to the same standards, like, oh, they're gonna be eating their friend, like, I understand the sentiment
Yeah.
behind it. But there's a word for it. I don't know what the word is, but it's projecting human traits on to like inanimate objects or animals. There's a
Okay.
word for it. I
Yeah.
can't think of what it is. But yeah, we do it all the time. Like I talk about how my laptop looks like it's smiling at me because of this weird like way that the keys are or something like that, but like laptops don't smile.
Right. It's called anthropomorphize. Anthropomorph. The anthropomorphize. That's what you do when you project those feelings on
Okay.
them. Yes.
So yeah, and it's probably like a natural tendency to do because it makes things that would otherwise be sort of cold or like scary or off-putting friendlier to us.
Okay, actually, there are two words. I love
Oh, okay.
Google.
Ah, the
So,
Google's the best.
personification is an act of giving human characteristics to animals or objects to create imagery,
Oh, okay.
while anthropomorphism aims to make an animal or object behave and appear like it is a human being.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we learned the things today.
And so did you. You're welcome.
Yes, yes, yes. But yeah, so you can kind of compare that to like if, people will say for dogs, if you're cold, they're cold, which for dogs they probably are, but with like chickens and even goats and ducks and things like that in the winter, just because you're cold outside in the coop doesn't mean they are because they were like built to deal with that kind of weather. Obviously, you want to keep them in their coop and make sure there's no draft because they can, that can be bad for them. But more than likely, they're okay, and that's why you don't need to do things like add heat to coop, which is something I'm sure we'll talk about, next November, December when
When it's closer
we
to needing to need that need to
yeah,
work on that.
exactly. Exactly. So so it's kind of like the same thing, expecting an animal to, have feelings towards chickens. Just like people look at me funny when I say, yeah, I give my chickens scrambled eggs.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they don't realize what they're eating or they don't have emotions. Like sometimes my roosters will jump in the nesting boxes and kick around the like shavings that are in there and break an egg. It doesn't hurt their feelings.
Yeah, no.
Um,
And they probably just eat the egg once they realize they broke it.
exactly. Yep.
They're
Yep,
like, "Oh
which
wait,
is
there's
not
something
great.
tasty in here." Yeah, and then you're
Yeah.
like, "Dang it."
Oh, here we go. But yeah, I can't stop them from doing that necessarily because they don't get it. Like you can kind of train a chicken in some senses, I guess, but they're still going to do what they want at the end of the day.
Well, they have instincts to
Yeah.
do certain things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I thought that that was an interesting thing to bring up, like, talking about how chickens are just they're just not people. They're
Yeah.
different than people. Yeah.
I'm sure some people would argue with us though. You know,
Well, I mean, yeah,
they're not people, but
that doesn't mean that they don't deserve respect.
exactly, and that they don't have
Yeah, that they don't
feelings
have
on some
feelings
level.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I try to give my chickens the best life that I possibly can.
Oh
But
yeah.
they are still chickens. I know some
Yeah.
people keep their chickens in their house. There's nothing wrong with that. I
No, it
choose not to
doesn't
do
bother
it.
me. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I've seen some freaking adorable house chickens. Like
I
Flip
have
Stickin'
too.
Chickens has two of the cutest house chickens I've seen in my life.
Oh,
So, yeah, you guys can go check her out. Just a free plug. She's not paying us to say that. She's
no.
literally just has two really cute chickens. So, if you don't know who she is, you should go look her up. But yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like too, like roosters are jerks, so that's kind of like a personality trait. Not all of them are jerks, but a couple of mine are kind of rude. But they're just doing their job and protecting their ladies. And then some of our chickens are more curious than others or friendlier than others. So they do have like different personalities, and I don't think I could eat any of them because that's not their purpose.
No, I couldn't eat my egg-laying chickens either. Like, I mean, when one of my dogs went after my chicken today, I reacted pretty swiftly and what's the word I'm looking for? I was surprised at like how on top of it I was. Like I didn't
Oh.
hesitate whatsoever.
So can you tell the story like how it happened? I know you were like picking cherries when it
Oh yeah,
happened.
yeah. So like I posted that like right after it happened because there was like feathers all over my backyard, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, like this was like super close. So yeah, we have a cherry tree, and the cherries are getting ready. We have a ton that were ready. So my husband and I were like, let's let the goats and the chickens out. And we'll all be outside and we'll pick cherries because we can throw the cherries on the ground. The goats and chickens shouldn't eat the pits, but the goats didn't really seem to care for them anyways, and the chickens were busy doing other things. So they were just all hanging out with us. And my daughter was walking back inside the house because she had forgotten to do something. And all of the animals tend to just like follow her around. So she had walked into the dog's territory. They have an invisible fence, and they had just been sitting in it like nicely. So it wasn't that big of a deal. So when she walked forward, I was like, oh, I was like, it was like the animals are following you. So I started coming towards her and then they all rushed in and the dogs were sitting there wagging their tails and looking, and I just like saw it. And Carmen
Mm,
is my Chesapeake Bay Retriever and Shar mix. She's like dark brown. She's got a lot of like dark brown shaggy hair. I'll post a photo of them to Instagram so everybody can see them. I realize I don't take photos of my farm dogs very often.
no, I've never seen your dogs before, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I have two super great dogs. They were both rescued from like the shelters in Phoenix before we moved.
Aw,
So they're not farm dogs. Like they did not grow up around farm animals, and we intentionally put their barrier so that it was within boundaries that the animals shouldn't really get into or need to get
okay.
into. Yeah, so that we could keep them separate because we knew that it was a possibility that one of them could attack a goat or a chicken, and I would be
Right.
super angry if that happened. Well, they walked into the boundary and the dogs were just sort of wagging their tails and not really paying any attention. And then Carmen just turned and I saw it in her face and I was like, oh, I was like, Aurora, come back. And it was too late. Like she just like turned and just pounced on one of the chickens.
Aw.
And as soon as she did that, Colette, my other dog, she pounced on the same chicken as well. So all the other chickens ran and they both just had this one. I was all the way in the orchard. I was kind of far away, but I just started yelling and I just
Ugh.
ran full speed and I chucked my pruners at the dogs and it distracted them like long enough that they let go of her and she
Aw.
beelined for the coop and they both beelined for the house because I think they were sure that I was like super angry and they wanted to get away from me as fast as possible.
Yeah.
We put them in their
Aw.
crates inside the house because we crate train them. They do really well in it. Their crate is like their home, so don't feel sorry for them. They like being in it. Put them in their crates, went out, checked at the chicken, and she seems to be fine, except she's missing a lot
Yeah.
of feathers. But I mean, it was a good reminder to us that like our dogs just cannot be around our farm animals. Like it was a beautiful,
Right.
peaceful morning and something just like snapped in her. Like,
And you said she's a Chesapeake Bay Retriever mix,
yep,
right?
yeah,
So she's got those retriever instincts, which is probably why she didn't kill it. She was
yeah.
just retrieving it for you.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it
It's
was,
probably just that instinct is deep down in there somewhere and something just clicked today.
well, and they've been hunting down squirrels. They've been treeing squirrels because that's Colette's instinct is to
Oh.
tree squirrels. They've been digging up moles and eating them. They've been pouncing on mice. They've been catching birds. If a like a wild bird lands in our backyard, they've been catching it and
Oh
eating
my
it.
gosh.
So, like, they had
Oh.
been kind of like going a little crazy, like the last few weeks, anyways, but they had always left the chickens alone, so I hadn't worried about it. And I always figured,
Yeah.
like, when they went after a chicken, like, the chickens would stay out of their area, and they hadn't gone after a chicken yet. So, I mean, they had
Hmm.
chased them just like a little bit, like for fun, but never actually caught one.
Yeah. It that makes me super nervous. We always when we let our dogs out, they're always on a lead so they don't, they'll get close. Our Labrador Retriever, she doesn't seem very interested in them. She's just kind of like, whatever. But my little Chihuahua mix, she just wants to kick everything's ass.
Hmm.
So they get too close to her. She like kind of goes all Cujo on them and like runs towards them and then like hits the end of the lead and like yanks and falls back and it's really dramatic. But she's my big baby, but she wants to kick everything's ass all the time.
Oh,
So yeah, and because like yours, they weren't raised around other animals, just like dogs and cats. So
yeah.
I would really like to get a livestock guard dog though.
That would be nice someday. That is on
Yeah,
my list.
it's on my list, and my husband said no until like the other ones pass.
That's what my husband said too. He's like, two dogs is enough for now.
Yeah, but the livestock guard dog would stay outside all the time, so in my brain it's different because ours could live with my goats.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And my husband has been talking about like a blue heeler, but that's not a guard dog. That's like a shepherding kind of dog. So
You know what's
that's
funny? That's
different
what my husband
purpose.
wants too.
Really?
Yeah,
They could be BFFs.
they could be. They'll get a chance to check that out.
Yes. Yeah. They'll be able to meet at the Ale Fest and see if they gel together.
Yeah. I hope so, at least on some level. Otherwise, that might be kind of awkward.
Yeah. No, they'll be. My husband is super social. Like he's the social butterfly out of the two of us. So he usually like gets along with everybody.
Oh, good. Mine is too.
Oh, good.
He's
Yeah,
usually
they'll
the
be
reason
fine.
that we have friends, but somehow I met all of our Chillicothe friends first. So,
Well, you've been turning a new leaf and spreading your butterfly wings and
yeah, I am.
yeah, it's not just him. Me,
That's so
like
true.
I don't like really have any friends in my town, but I have a lot of work friends, so there's that.
Well, that counts as friends.
Oh, I'm just going way off topic here. I'm going to
Okay.
bring something up, and I wonder if this happens to your friends too. So, we both obviously have Instagram followings between Drink and Farm and our own stuff, but I have like real life friends that follow me, and a lot of them are work friends. But what happens is my work friends will follow me, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of chicken people start following them. And like, I don't bring this up. I wait for them to ask me about it or say something. And in the past week, three of them who just started following me have said, it's really weird. Like, I started following you and you followed me back. And then all of a sudden, all these chicken people start following me, and none of them have farm animals. And if you look at their Instagrams, you can clearly see they're like normal people.
Normal people.
Yeah. That don't have, they might have dogs,
Yeah,
but
but they don't have farms. That's
no,
really interesting. So, none of my friends have said anything like that to me. I don't have quite the following that you do, though.
yet.
So, I have a lot less. Yeah. And so, like, I still get to see all of my friends' posts in my Instagram feed
Oh,
because, like,
that's
it hasn't
nice.
gotten super out of control. So far, I've been really working hard to make sure that it doesn't get out of control because it is still really important with me to, like, connect with the people that I know
Right.
in real life as well as like my new friends that I've made. But yeah, I haven't had that happen to anybody yet. But I have a rule of thumb when I am Instagramming, when someone follows me, I I don't always go check the feed because sometimes I get a bunch of them at the same time and I just don't have
Yeah.
time to go through all of them. But when I do, I'll go look. If it's private, then I would never ask to follow.
Oh, yeah, I don't either
Yeah.
because I just don't know what it is.
But if it's public, yeah, because I figure that it's private for a reason. It's because they don't
Right.
want strangers looking at their Instagram feed.
Right.
So they made it private, and I'm a stranger to them. They want to follow me because I'm very public about the way that I do my farming stuff.
Right.
So that's sort of the assumption that I make.
Right. And I'm not down for follow kind of behavior.
No.
If you are, that's fine. But literally, like, I could not because Instagram has a following limit of 7,500, which is, I don't know
Oh,
how
I
you
didn't know
see
that.
anything. Yeah.
Oh.
So I literally could not with my following at this
Yeah, no,
point.
you couldn't.
And with Drink and Farm too, it's like it's kind of the same thing. Like, woohoo, we just got over 1,000 followers on Drink and Farm. Thanks,
Which is
guys.
super exciting. Yeah, I was like following people on Drink and Farm, and then I was like, wait, I just follow these people on my regular account. So
Yeah.
really, Drink and Farm should have zero of people that it's following because
Yeah.
Sam and Bev have their own Instagram accounts that they use to interact with all of you guys.
But I did like go through and follow like some really cool beer accounts and
Oh, that
some
was a
of
good
the like
idea. There we go.
brands we work with and stuff.
That's what Drink and Farm should. That's exactly who Drink and Farm should follow. That makes sense.
Yeah, and just really freaking interesting people.
Yeah. All right,
But
Drink and
yeah,
Farm has a strategy now.
yes. Yeah, exactly. And we're just not like I'll go on there and obviously like interact with people with it sometimes, but it's not as much as like our personal ones.
Yeah, no,
So yeah,
that totally
ain't
makes
nobody
sense.
got time for that. So I saw on your Instagram that you have some mystery eggs in your incubator, so I'm guessing they're not Barnevelders. So what are they?
So those are turkey eggs.
Ooh.
Unfortunately, a farmer down the road was bush hogging and there was a hen on top of a nest
Oh no.
and he didn't see her. It was like super traumatizing for everybody. So like he feels terrible, like the whole thing, it was just like a terrible situation.
Oh.
But my neighbor was like, "Hey, Bev has an incubator. So we can put those eggs in the incubator and the, turkey poults that she was working so hard to save can still hatch." And so she called me. I happened to be in Chillicothe when it happened. So it was still like a little ways away. I was like, yeah, I'll be home in like 30 minutes to an hour. They'll be fine. We'll totally get them in the incubator. So they weren't covered for about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But she wrapped them in a nice warm towel and put them in a bucket. And what I did was I drove over there in our utility vehicle and I brought my candler and we candled a couple of them to see like where they were
Mm-hmm.
in their stage of development and whether any of them moved. None of them moved at that time, but it was kind of light in there. And they didn't look to be very far. Like, I think they're about halfway. If I had
Okay.
to guess, I'd say that they're between 10 and 14 days. They're taking up about half of the egg shell, and the air sacs are perfectly intact. It was kind of amazing since I actually got to look at eggs that had a living creature in them. Now I know exactly what I'm looking for with chicken
There you go.
eggs. Yeah, like it's funny. You definitely have to hold it and like see it with your own eyes. The pictures and the YouTube videos, they just don't do it justice. I can't describe what it's like holding that life in your hand and holding the candle up to it
Yeah.
and seeing it move. Like it's pretty incredible. So I got the incubator fired up and I put the eggs in it and I let them sit for like 5 or 6 hours and then I took them into the dark bathroom and started candling them. The first night I had four that moved and I had one that I'm pretty sure the air sac is broken. It
Oh.
moves when I move
Oh.
the egg, like it sort of flip-flops in there,
Yeah.
but there doesn't appear to be fluid leaking into it yet.
Huh.
So I just wrote on their broken air sac, like
Mm-hmm.
so that I would be gentle with it. I used a pencil. I numbered them all and I drew the air sacs on each of them so that I could keep track of how big they were growing. And I wrote an A if I saw movement so that I knew that they were alive.
Okay.
And so that one I left it in because, I just I'm not 100% positive on what I'm looking at, so I think it looks broken, but that doesn't mean that it is. I could be totally wrong about that. So until it stinks, it's staying in the incubator. That's my rule of thumb now. And this morning I candled a few more, and I've got seven that showed signs of life. And it was amazing watching
Oh.
it like pulse in there. I don't know how else to describe it. Turkey eggs are kind of hard to see through, but once
Yeah.
I found like the dark mass that I was looking for, I could see it pulsing and moving up and down. And I can see all
Oh.
the veins. Like you just gotta like get your eyes like accustomed to the light and for what you're looking for. So yes, 7 out of 10 are alive currently. Two of them are
Wow.
unknown, and the one has what I'm pretty sure is a broken air sac. So we'll see. And it's funny, like raising turkeys is something I always wanted to do because farm fresh Thanksgiving is something that is on my list.
Ooh.
But since I've held to those eggs and like, candled them and whatnot, like I'm kind of thinking that I just want to keep this first set, like if they survive, just as, like a little flock of turkeys. Like there's something
Yeah.
kind of special about them. I don't know how to describe it. If one of them's a jerk, I'll eat it, but
Right. But it's like then if you have like breeding pairs or whatever, you
yeah.
can just keep cycling them through.
Yeah. So we'll see how that works out. Hey Sam, have you heard of that subscription box that's for chickens and their keepers?
Oh, yes, I have. In fact, I've been a longtime subscriber and a big fan of the chicken box that sends me stuff for me and for my chickens.
Yes, and that would be the Henny and Roo box, right?
Correct. Ding, ding, ding. Winner, winner. I don't want to say chicken dinner. No.
Oh, yeah, the chickens might not like that.
But anyways, I totally enjoy that we can get this chicken box of treats and first aid and treats for the humans just delivered right to your door every single month. Small family run business, and they check out all the products and test them out on their flock before sending to us.
And if you're not a subscriber of Honey and Roo yet, you should go ahead and get on that over on honeyandroo.com and you can use the code drink and farm, that's and spelled out with A-N-D, and you'll get 10% off your first subscription. And when you support our sponsors, you're supporting our podcast, which is super awesome of you. Cheers.
We have like, I don't understand. So we have a neighbor that has a barn, and this is the second year because last year we had the same thing. There is like a mama fox and a bunch of kits in their barn. I don't know if they just think it's cute that they're in there because well, one of the kits got hit by a car and was on the side of the road, first of all. So that's not cute. But that's a situation where I would be calling my DNR to see if they could be relocated somewhere like farther away from the road and farther away from, I don't know, our livestock. But yeah, it's just not something to mess with.
Well, it kind of reminds me of we had a neighbor in Phoenix that would feed the coyotes. And
Mm.
it drove me insane because, like, I grew up in the desert.
Ugh.
Coyotes are not necessarily dangerous to people by any means. They're mostly pretty terrified of us. But like you don't want to attract them to your
No.
backyard because what was happening was they were coming over to our yard and they were playing with our dogs through the fence.
Yeah. And they can hurt your dogs.
They can, and like we don't have little tiny chihuahuas,
Right.
but
But
like
still.
still, yeah, my 12-year-old left the back gate open one day. He would ride his bike out because it just opened up into South Mountain Park, which is like a big municipal park in Phoenix. So he would just go out our back gate and go mountain bike riding. He left the gate open on accident and our dogs got out. I was positive that the coyotes came and got them and lured them back to wherever they live. But it
Oh,
turns out that
oh
they were
my
just at a
gosh.
trailhead waiting for us. So we did end
Ugh.
up getting them back. But I was like, oh, that's it. Like the coyotes, they did their grooming and they got our dogs.
Yeah. Those coyotes, they're wily. Yeah, Sam's 2 beers deep now. Woohoo!
I like that.
Bad jokes. But yeah, we can actually like we have woods set farther back away from our house and they're not technically our property, but we could hear coyotes and their pups back there a couple months ago. So it's like, okay, you stay back there, we'll stay up here. It's fine.
Always makes me nervous, but they haven't come up and bothered our chickens. Like, in fact, since I've been free ranging my chickens, I've known that something it could possibly happen to them. That's just that's the realization you have to come to when you've decided that you're gonna let them free range.
Hmm.
But like, I didn't imagine it was gonna be my own dog that was gonna be the first one to attack it. But
Right. But now you know.
yeah, now I know. Yeah, the coyotes seem to stay away from us, but I do hear them at night all the time. But we're surrounded by a lot of woods too. Like our property isn't really wooded. We've got a tiny bit of woods, but there's woods all behind us and
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. So there is something sort of somber and serious that we would be remiss if we did not talk about it this
Oh.
week.
Yes.
I'm sure everybody has, well, I mean, I guess not. Not everybody. I don't want to make you feel bad if you haven't seen it,
Most
but
people.
most people, yeah, we had two celebrities that took their own lives this
Yes.
past week.
Hmm.
One of them was Kate Spade, and the other one was Anthony Bourdain. He was like huge in the food industry,
Yeah.
which we talk about food a lot, and food has a lot to do with out farming. And it sort of got me thinking about the high rate of suicides among farmers.
Hmm.
So I thought it this doesn't need to be like a long, super sad segment, but we wanted to talk about it because we wanted to encourage people, if you feel that way, to seek help. And that's
Yes.
so much easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I saw something come across my CNN app before we hopped on that actor Jackson Odell was found unresponsive in his house, and they're not saying what it is yet, but he's only 20 years old and he's on Modern Family.
Oh,
Or he was on 2 episodes of Modern Family, I guess, and was on the Goldbergs. And so I'm really hoping that's not another one because I guess I was talking to some family yesterday about it, and sometimes when one celebrity, I guess, does that, it kind of spurs some other ones. Kind of like with any kind of horrible event, sometimes that just spurs copycat type behavior for whatever reason. So it could be two, or maybe not. I'm not sure yet. They're not saying, but yeah, it's definitely a dark thing. You sent me some pretty eye-opening articles about it too, and just saying like a lot of it has to do with just how much they're paid per, what is it, per hundred, or was that what it was called, per hundred
that
weight?
was for the dairy farmers.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we watched Milk Money as part of the
Yes.
homework on this show, and yeah, we know that dairy is like in dire straits, for lack of a better word. But
Yeah.
one of the dairy associations, when they sent out like what the price for dairy was going to be for this next, I don't know how long the time period is, unfortunately, but they actually included a phone number to a suicide hotline.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's just so callous and
Yeah.
sad.
It's like we know you're going to be upset with this, so here you go. This is all we can provide. Like, granted, they're not going to pay for you to go get the help you probably need
No.
if you're in that situation and you can't get yourself out. And like I personally have never had those thoughts in my head, but I can totally understand and empathize as to how and why it can happen. And I actually was reading one of those articles you sent to and saw that dairy farmers have a higher suicide rate than military veterans, which just really surprised me
Yeah.
quite a bit because, I mean, two different life situations there. I would, just in my opinion, would think the military veteran might have a harder time. Um, just because depending on what they saw when they were serving, but also can appreciate like the dairy farmer being in a situation where maybe they don't have any other skill sets and they don't have the money to learn a different trade or to go to college. Like that feeling of being trapped and suffocated is something that I can't truly wrap my head around. I mean, I feel trapped and suffocated all the time by my student loans, but I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I have a job where I can pay them. It's just not fun. But in that situation, you literally feel like you have no way out.
Yeah. Well, I think what's happening with a lot of farmers is like the price of their product is so low right now, they're barely covering costs. Or like in the case of milk, they're getting paid less than what it takes to actually produce that milk, which just
Yep.
like blows my mind. I
Yep.
cannot fathom how that has become a thing. But, they're losing their animals and they're losing their land, which is possibly family land
Yep.
or, the farm that they grew up on. And there's also this stereotype of like the farmer being tough and in control of it all
Mm-hmm.
and stoic and strong, in the face of all adversity. I mean, farmers are freaking badasses, and I don't pretend to be a farmer. Um, I know that like what I do here on what I call like my quote unquote farm is like nothing compared to what like real farmers that create food for people in cities to consume
Right.
do.
Right. It's just more of, for both of us, I think, just smaller scale, more closely to homestead because we're just doing it for ourselves and our families and maybe a few friends.
And yeah, so like when the weather
But
comes out
yeah,
and wipes out my entire garden, like yeah, I'm sad and I'm mad about it, but like I didn't just lose my livelihood.
exactly.
So it's definitely not the same thing. But I thought it was really important for us to talk about it because I know that I do follow some real farmers on Instagram, and like I include those of you that run like your community CSAs and like making money off of your farm, or whether you call it a homestead or a farmstead or whatever the word is, like you guys are farmers, and when bad things happen in the market or bad things happen with the weather, there's so much about farming that's just like outside of your control.
Yep.
So I just wanted to address it so that like you guys knew that there was somebody that cared, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of.
Yeah.
I'm so bad with words. Why am I
No,
on a podcast?
I think it's important though to for it to be recognized and that they know that we see them and we can't necessarily sympathize, but we can empathize with the situation. And because we do things on a smaller scale, we have appreciation for how hard it is just for us to work full time and do this sort of thing and have families, but for it to have that much pressure on you to provide for your family and you're providing for other people that you don't know. And it is a smack in the face when, you're getting paid half of what you used to be paid and yet the milk prices seem to still go up at the store every time I'm there.
Right.
And then you're in a situation too where organic or even the raw milk movement, you could be making a lot more money, but you can't invest in yourself to do that if you're getting paid diddly squat. And who knows if you, based on your debt situation or whatever, maybe you can't take out loans to make that step if you want to start making more money. Or maybe it's illegal for you to sell raw milk where you live. So yeah, I can't even imagine how suffocating that feels sometimes. Even to people that don't necessarily have those thoughts or that leaning to take their own lives. It's just in general it's a problem, and I can totally understand why it would push somebody to do that. Even though, I don't think it's the answer, but I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I completely understand it either. So,
Yeah. Well, we just wanted to talk about it so that like you knew that yeah, we understand that it's hard to ask for help when you need it, but like there's all sorts of great communities out there and hopefully like, you found friends on Instagram that understand what you do or friends in other places online that understand what you do because a lot of us live in sort of rural areas, so may not have a lot of access to real life friends
hmm.
or access to get help when we feel like we need it. Like, there's not a psychologist in my town.
Right,
Like, if you needed to talk to somebody, you have to drive 30 or 40 minutes either direction to go find somebody in my town.
right.
And I know a lot of people live in similar situations or even further out. So,
Yeah. But I would encourage, if possible, I saw something really cool from my insurance company. It came through my email this week. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield in Michigan. Again, they don't pay us. But just as an example, they actually rolled out a telemedicine program for just simple health things, like if you have a cough or a sneeze or something like that, and you need antibiotics or something, you can do a quick, one-on-one visit over, your cell phone through an app or through your computer. If you have internet or good enough cell service, I know sometimes that's a problem when you're a farmer too. But they also have behavioral health and psychologists that are available. So even if you can't get to one, but you do have internet access, that could be an option. There's also great apps out there like Teledoc and Telehealth. If you do some Googling, you might be able to find some other behavioral help, or behavioral therapy help for that sort of thing too, because I understand like your insurance, I mean, that can be expensive if you're not getting it through your work and it's all on you as a farmer. But some of those apps and things like that are pretty affordable. So I used to do telemedicine stuff when I worked at the big hospital, so I'm a big fan of it because it does help with the access issue that a lot of people have.
yeah, it totally does. So, yeah, and even if you're not a farmer and you've been having thoughts about that, reach out to somebody. I promise you, there are people that care.
Oh, absolutely.
So now we need to like liven this up a little bit. We don't
I
normally
know.
end on such a sad note.
I know. We can't possibly end that way. We felt like we needed to address it because it's a big deal and it's terrifying, and it just I can't even
Yeah.
wrap my head around it. Like, I know I've said that like 30 times, but I feel
Well,
fortunate that I'm not in that situation where I feel that way, but you can't ever say that you never will be because you just don't know. But yeah, I think it was important for us to touch on that, but
well,
we
we've
are,
both talked about like having anxiety and whatnot,
oh
and
yeah.
it's easy for those things to sort of spiral out of control, like just like the unknown, like coupled on top of, the stress of doing, even if you're not a farmer, you're just a homesteader or a hobby farmer like we are, and you work a regular job with your family, like the compounding stress from all of those things can just sort of pile on you.
Oh
So,
yeah.
and you can feel really lonely. And I think that's one of the reasons why we kind of started this podcast also. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to know that there are other people that struggle with the same things that you do. Like when you learn that, it suddenly makes the burden just feel a little lighter,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And even for me, like, I don't. really have any real life friends except for maybe like one couple that do anything remotely like this. That aren't like my grandparents and my cousins that run a dairy farm.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to be able to talk to Bev every week and then have those interactions with people on Instagram through both Drink and Farm and through our personal accounts because it does give you that sense of community and that people care. And I do think that's a component of what we do is we provide that so people don't feel so alone. It's just not usually as dark and twisty. Usually we're
Yeah.
joking and have potty mouths and tell jokes that are like 12-year-old old boy where they
We didn't make any like butt jokes this week.
the podcast is not over yet, Bev.
Oh, good point. And that reminds me, I have one more story to share, so we will get to end on a little bit of a lighter note.
Okay, that's good.
I told a lot of stories this week. Last week I was all about corners. This week I'm just like hogging all the stories.
Oh yeah. So we're not bitchy or salty about anything this week, are we?
No, I don't think so. No, I'm feeling pretty mellow. I mean, I got to kayak down the creek today, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I was kind of a little bitchy when I was talking about how my friends get followed by chicken people, but I didn't like call it out that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
obviously follow who you want, but I feel like some of those people might try to follow for follow type behavior. I
Yeah,
see you. It's fine. You can do what you want, but I see you. So that was Sam's bitchy salty corner for the both of us.
there we go. I like it.
Yeah.
So it turns out that this week I'll be integrating some new chickens into our flock, even though I haven't hatched any eggs.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so one of my other neighbors sent me a message. His mom can't take care of her chickens anymore.
Aww.
She's just kind of gotten up there in age. And that was my reaction too. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I will take them all and give them a good home and deliver eggs." But then I was like, "Wait, how many chickens does she have?" Because I was picturing, like just like a tiny flock with like, the sweet elderly lady that goes out and throws corn out to them. She
Yeah.
has 15 chickens.
Oh my god, Bev.
So I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." At first I'm trying to picture in my head how I could take on another 15 chickens. Even though I don't need 15 more chickens, I already have way more eggs than I can possibly use. So I don't need 15 more chickens. I would only be taking them because I want them to have a good life and I want to take the burden off of her from having to take care of them anymore. But I could not figure out how to make that work. And I talked to my husband and I was like, "So our neighbor, his mom can't take care of her chickens," and he just like threw his hands up in the air. He's like, "Do whatever you're gonna do. Don't tell me what it was." I'm like, "Oh," I'm so sorry." I'm like, "I don't mean for this to be like stressful." He's getting ready to go on a work trip. So he's like, a little stressed out. And
But you
we just
need your
bought a truck and
friends while he's gone on work trips. You need 15 more chickens.
right. So I decided that I'm not going to take all 15. I sent him a message
Oh.
and I was like, "I have room for 5. So I'll take 5 of them from you." So while he's gone on his work trip, I'll be integrating 5 new chickens into our flock.
Well, what kind are they? Do
Wish
you
me luck.
know?
I don't know. I didn't even ask.
Oh,
But I did ask how old they were, mostly because I was just wondering if I was like, taking on just, like kindness care chickens or
yeah.
whether they're of egg laying age or whatnot. They just turned 1, so they're the same
Oh,
age as my hens.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So they
That's
still have lots
exciting.
of laying life left in them. I did put in a phone call to our local food pantry to find out if they would take eggs from free range chickens. Because I know
Oh.
some places are weird and they won't take them. And I haven't heard back yet. But yeah, with 5 more chickens, I'm totally just going to be delivering eggs down there if they'll take them every week.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what else to do with them. And I feel
Yeah.
guilty asking for money for them. Not because I guess it's totally fine to sell eggs. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that like that's not why I do it here, and I feel weird about it because I don't like taking money from people for things. I'm terrible at
Oh.
selling things. I'm the worst
Oh,
seller on the planet.
I feel like a freaking egg dealer at my work. Like, one guy, like, I was doing pretty good with, like, keeping track on my sticky notes for what I charge. And then one guy gave me, like, $40, and he's like, just so I'm good for a while. And I'm like, God, I need to start a spreadsheet. So now I have a spreadsheet
Yeah.
with all my customers' names. And because we had a conference at my work this past week, like, nobody got eggs. So now I need to like email people tomorrow and be like, do you need eggs? Do you need eggs? How many dozen do you want? Are you
Nice.
jonesing for some free range eggs?
You know what? If I went into an office, I would totally sell eggs to my coworkers because
Oh
that feels
yeah.
like no pressure, like not awkward, like
No.
whatsoever. But like my neighbors and stuff, like I just want to give them eggs because it's
Yeah.
just easier because I know that I'm gonna need favors from people eventually.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm just like, no, like the place where I sell my yarn at, I brought them some eggs and they're like, how much? I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, you guys like hold my yarn in here. Like, just take eggs.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like they're just like my goodwill tokens.
Yeah, that's what we do with our neighbor across the road with he used our barn for hay and like he only filled one side last year. This year he's gonna fill both sides. And he's like, I can like work out, money, like pay you guys or whatever. And we're like, you know what? Like, no, that's okay. Like, if you just help us with random things and like keep an eye on the house when we're gone. Like, one time our ADT alarm went off and we didn't know exactly why. So my husband texted him just to come like drive through, make sure everything's okay. And he did, like in the middle of the day, like stuff like that. Like, I'm happy with that trade-off.
Yeah, it's a great trade-off.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna ask like the older farmer dude to pay us. Like,
No.
no, I don't think so. If he wasn't nice, then maybe. But he's like the nicest, kindest person, and his like farmhand is super nice too. So I'm not gonna do that to him.
Yeah. Neighboring. It's a good thing.
Yes,
It's totally a thing.
exactly.
I love neighboring.
Yes.
Hopefully my cherry tree produces enough cherries I can go neighbor with some cherries.
Oh, ooh, yeah. You should bring some to the Ale Fest if you still have some, because
If
that
I
would be
still have some,
awesome.
I'll bring some to the ale fest. But as it is, I feel
Yes.
like I'm barely beating the birds to them, so I don't know.
Oh,
If I can some though, I'll totally bring you a little jar of them if I can some.
yay!
Yeah.
Presents!
Yay. Farm presents. They're the best.
Yay! Oh, so I sent you a picture before we hopped on here.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, I will tell this rather tragic story. I wasn't ready to share it last week, but I think it's super important for me to share with you guys because I have like previously kind of preached something and then I didn't practice what I preached and it was a little devastating. So, we have call ducks in a brooder, which I don't, you guys might have seen pictures. My husband built like this big brooder, and really for call ducks, they'll probably be able to live there full time. But it has this really nice pool. That's just this big tub, and my husband put a drain in it so we can drain it out, and the ducks have like a nice little pool. Well, we tried to integrate three Muscovies with them a little too early and we had a big temp drop. And then one of the little ducklings didn't quite have his big kid feathers yet and went in the pool. I think he got a little bogged down, and then the call ducks had been kind of bullying them because that happens with any kind of flock integration. And I'm pretty certain that they drowned him. And we didn't notice
Oh.
it until we drained the tub. So I was devastated and bawling and felt awful because I had this like gut feeling like not to do that. And then I kind of had it in my head like they're bullying him, maybe they'll drown him, and then it happens. So, first lesson, always trust your gut with farm things. Second lesson, take it easy on the integration with other ducks because they are assholes. I think they're almost worse assholes than chickens from what I've seen because we've had, even with our bigger ducks, some bullying going on. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that. So the other two ducklings that were in there with them that were a little younger obviously came back in the house for a while, but they were just getting too big. So now my husband was like, well, you get to figure out the outdoor brooder situation because we have like these little dog fence things, but we're using those for another set of Muscovies that hatched like 2 weeks before these ones did. And so I went to Walmart today and I bought a children's tent for them.
I
So,
like how that became a funny story.
yeah,
I'm over
like
here going, oh, poor little duckling.
I know it was so devastating, but I learned my lesson. And I think when you go through something like that, you really the only way to honor that accident is to learn from it. So those two, I was just like, they are not going in with those little murderers because they're I call them murderers now, which is awful, but that's what I call them.
I hadn't heard that ducks could be that big of jerks until my friend that I was kayaking with, her mom has ducks, and she was telling me that her mom had to separate the drake from her other duck. She only has two,
Yeah.
because he was starting to beat the crap out of her, like for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, sometimes male animals can kind of act up. I was like, man, it's a good thing ducks don't have beaks because they'd be like, well, I mean, they have a bill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, their
Oh,
mouth is
yeah.
called a bill. It's a good thing they don't have sharp beaks like chickens do because like their jerky behavior, that would be devastating.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, one of our drakes is kind of an asshole too, but he just mostly like tries to walk towards me. That's his thing, and then I just chase him and he runs away. But I'm pretty sure he's a Rowan, and we had a mallard for a while, and I'm pretty sure the mallard was just getting like sick and weak, and the Rowan I think raped him, and they
Mm.
were both boys. So, yeah, we found him a while ago. So that was the way I found out that you really got to watch your drake to hen ratio with ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Learning all the things about ducks. Um, but yeah, so the little ducks now, I think it was the chicken chick. She had a pack and play, but I couldn't find like a good pack and play at the store that wasn't ridiculously priced. So I found this
Yeah,
like
they're kind of
children's tent
pricey.
for like $15. And I was like, well, this is what happens when my husband tells me to figure it out on my own. So, but I set it up in there, and like there's a little screen on the top so they have ventilation and I can peek in there. I might, since it's just in the garage, like cut a little bit of the side to create like another window that's
Yeah.
higher up that they can't jump out of. But for now, I'm just kind of letting them get used to it. They look a little confused that they're
They're
not
like,
in the
why are we going
bathroom.
camping?
Yeah, but it's like the cutest freaking tent. It's got like a little welcome sign on it. I'll have to like take a drinking selfie with them and post it on the drinking farm this week.
Yes, that would be awesome.
It's about as close to camping as I get.
Oh, I like it because like it just goes to show like you don't have to have the fanciest like perfect farm setup to make it
No.
work. You
Yeah.
just you do what you can do with what you got.
Yes, exactly. And like I have one of those little like reptile heating pads in there, so I don't have like a light in there because I just felt like that was a really bad idea.
Oh yeah, like polyester tent and a heat
Yeah.
lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
I just have one of those like surface
Sam has
safe
brains.
ones. Yeah, I do sometimes. I learned my lesson with the murdered duck. I was like, I'm not gonna light these ones on fire. Let's not do that.
I shouldn't have laughed at that, but I couldn't help it.
I kind of laugh too. Like, I feel like so bad about poor little C3PO because he was the only white Muscovy, but he came out like neon yellow and he was still like that color when he died. It was just like, ugh,
Oh.
ducks are such assholes. Maybe that can be the title of the episode. I mean, obviously, don't say asshole in the title, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
no.
A hole.
A-holes. Ducks are a-holes.
Yes. But yeah, we kind of were a little heavy this episode. Sorry, guys, between, talking about.
Oh, we were a little bit last week too, talking
Yeah.
about.
But you know what? I looked at our iTunes, and last week's episode is one of our most popular ones.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So apparently it wasn't too bad, I guess.
Well,
Or
that's
unless people
exciting.
just started listening to it and then stopped because we were depressing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. How long was their like listening time? Like 20
I
minutes
don't
in, and then they're like,
I
we're
didn't see
out.
that. I don't know if the analytics are that good.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, they just aren't for podcasts.
No.
But I think we're sort of just like, we're coming into our own as like a podcast. We're kind of figuring out like what we're about and what we do.
Yeah. And, if you guys, we'll just remind you now, we actually have gotten some written reviews now, so I'm super excited.
Yes.
And we only have 5-star ratings, so my ego is getting a little big because we have like a whole 11 ratings. So thank
Oh,
you for
that's
you
such a big
guys.
deal. That's
I
so exciting.
know.
So if you
So,
haven't rated us yet, please do it.
yes. And then some people have started sending me screenshots through DM and in the group. I've noticed that somebody posted theirs. So make sure you send us that screenshot of your review so we can enter you into the giveaway. This is like all July we're doing this. So you have plenty of time, but
All of June.
yeah, but don't procrastinate because I procrastinate and then I'm can be very late on things or like panicked on things. So don't procrastinate and just like if you're not driving right now, just
Or
open up,
mowing.
yeah, or mowing.
Yeah, I
Um
can't text while I'm on my ZTR because it takes both hands to drive me around.
Yeah. So with if you're not operating some kind of motorized vehicle thing, uh just stop what you're doing and leave us a review on iTunes if it's super convenient from your phone or download it on your computer if you really love us. And you can leave it there if you don't have an Apple product.
Yes. And then once you do that, take a screenshot of it, share it in the group on the thread that we put on there, or message it to us, and we'll
Yeah.
enter you into the giveaway. We're gonna give something cool away in
Yeah.
July,
Yeah,
right?
I've yes. So I
Okay.
got something that we can for sure give away, but I'm like constantly picking things up at the store because
So
I'm
it's gonna
already,
be something super cool.
yeah,
It's gonna be a collection of cool things.
yeah. It'll be more than one thing, we promise, because we know it takes time to like stop what you're doing and send us a nice review. I mean, you can also send us a bad review and we'll still enter you in the giveaway.
Yeah,
Um,
we
because we're
will.
just
We'll be a
fair
little
like
sad
that.
about it, but
You can be like, these bitches are so salty and they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to animal byproducts. 1 star. We'll still enter you in there, because we're just fair like that. So
yeah. And if you haven't yet, join our group. We have a super cool Facebook group.
I
We
think
talk
we
about
have like
things.
27 people in there now. I was like,
That's
holy
exciting.
smokes. Yeah, and like 2 people posted.
Somebody didn't go eat, what is that? Pigskin?
Oh, pork rinds. Does that make me an influencer if I influenced someone away from pork rinds?
Yes, but did you see my response?
I did. Yes. I think I laughed at it too.
Did you? Okay,
Yeah.
good. You'll have to go in the group if you want to see what it is. I'm not going
Yeah.
to spoil it here. It was a good one, though.
And then somebody else just joined the group and I let them in while we were talking.
Oh, perfect.
Listen. Oh,
Telepathy.
this is great. So this is from Montana Combs. She said, "Thanks for the ad. I just got a chance to listen to this week's episode, and I have done a ton of research, or excuse me, I've done a bit of research on a ton of different herbs for chickens. You cannot give chickens apple cider vinegar in the heat because it will make the water sour, and the chickens will
Oh,
refuse to drink it."
that's amazing.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
Also, oregano contains high levels of vitamin E and K and calcium, and it helps with their immune and respiratory symptoms. So thanks, Montana, for sharing that. That was totally on the
Awesome.
fly that I saw that. And now she gets a little shout out. And that's
Well, I'm
funny
glad that you were
because
checking your phone while you were talking to me.
I know I'm so rude. But it's kind of a nice segue, in a way. I don't know. I know we talked about, see, Bev and I, we forgot to shout out the drink person again, who bought our drinks. But actually, Montana, aka Thimbleworks USA, is this episode's sponsor. She bought
Oh,
our
that's
drinks.
awesome.
So we can just leave this at the end.
Yeah, and she was the one that commented on the Facebook group.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
amazing.
I had no idea what her real life name was, but now I know. And
Perfect.
it's a pretty cool name. Montana.
Thank you so much for our drinks this episode. That is
Yes.
amazing. The Patreon sponsors are just like blowing me away. It's so fun to just like be involved with you guys in this way, and we can't thank you enough for sponsoring just like this
Yes.
piece of our podcast. It's so nice to know that like our drinks are taken care of for a couple of our podcasts a month, and there's still a couple spots. So if you wanted to buy us our drinks, you can go to the Patreon and do that. But she has an Etsy store.
Oh yeah, she does. She
Yeah.
has an Etsy store, and I've actually have a bunch of stuff from it.
I need to order one of her harvesting aprons because I'm tired of carrying things in my hands.
Yeah, I have one of the egg aprons and it says I just got laid in the backyard. And I have socks that say something about just drinking wine with my chickens or something like that. Or if you can read this, bring me wine. I can't remember. I haven't worn them in a while because we have animals and hardwood floors, so and they're black socks, so they get like. I need to take a cute picture though and shout her out. And then I have some of her hen aprons too, or like the saddle things.
Oh, yeah.
I actually went on there yesterday, and she's got a ton of like wine ones and beer ones. And like I felt like a kid in the candy store, so I need to place my order. It's like I filled up my cart
And then
and
you're
then
like, wait a second, I need a payday.
yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna think about this and like maybe wean it down a little bit because I went crazy. But they're super cute and like we've used them on our chickens before here because she was kind enough to send me a couple after I shouted her out in a blog in December. And
Oh,
I
nice.
love them and my chickens because we have roosters. They tend to get overridden sometimes, and then their
Mm.
feathers on their back, kind of depending on the rooster, can get torn out a little bit. It's just part of breeding.
So
So
I have a question about
yeah.
hen saddles, and maybe you can
Uh-huh.
answer this question. Maybe she can answer it for us in the group, and we'll talk about it on the next podcast.
Okay.
So I have one chicken saddle. I ordered it from the Pampered Hen. She's super sweet too, and she has some cool stuff as well. But I haven't put it on my chicken yet.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning on putting it on the one that had like the really bald back that's looking like super terrible now. She looks awful. All
Aw.
of my chickens, they're losing feathers on their back, but they don't have a parasite and they don't have anything else. So I started putting oregano in their water and giving them some more fresh herbs to see if that like boosts their immunity and they can kick whatever it is that's causing that.
Mm-hmm.
But her feathers just look the worst. And I'm wondering if I can put that on over like her back while her feathers are growing in, or if that'll just make it
Yes.
worse.
You can, because
Okay.
I did that for one of mine right now, and her feathers are growing back in, even though the roosters are still paying attention to her, or at
Okay.
least one of them are.
Because I was worried, like, if she did have a parasite that I couldn't see, if it would, like, stop her from being able to dust bathe them off, or.
Do you think maybe your chickens are molting though?
So that's what my husband said too. And I was like, you don't know anything about chickens.
Well, because they don't molt right away, but I did notice some of my year-old ones were molting around that year mark.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
just
they
and
are right at the year mark. So maybe they are all just molting. Because yeah, the one that just got attacked by my dog, I can only tell that it's her because she's missing like five more tail feathers than everybody else is.
oh, yeah. And they can all molt differently too. Like some of my chickens looked almost completely bald in the fall, but other ones they just molt gradually.
Okay.
But it does look rather painful, like when the pin feathers do start coming back.
Yeah, because like their skin looks fine. It's super weird. They don't have any like weird bumps. There's nothing crawling on them. I gave them a beautiful dust bath now, and it's filled
Aw.
with lime and diatomaceous earth so that if they do have a parasite, it'll get rid of it just in case. And yeah, but their feathers aren't growing back. It's been weeks.
Hmm.
So I was thinking of
Yeah.
putting that saddle on the one though that's looking particularly haggard. Like,
Yeah. It wouldn't, I don't think it would hurt anything. You could still check it occasionally to see if there is anything in there that shouldn't be in there, but she'd probably be fine with it on.
okay, I'm gonna go put it on her
Um,
tonight. I'll make my husband hold
yeah.
her down.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-person job until you can get the hang of it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just, I don't know what you're feeding them other than feed, but when mine were molting, I just gave them a lot of grubblies and I gave them a lot of scrambled eggs because the protein helps.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, they do. They get Grubblies twice a day because I use it to get them back into their coop.
Oh, spoiled little
So many
bitches.
Grubblies, right? Oh, we have our super cool tumblers
Ooh,
in
yeah.
the shop.
Yeah.
When you purchase one, it supports our podcast. So thank you. I'll put a link to them in the
Yeah.
show notes.
We have the tumblers. We have like just wine glasses that are also called tumblers, but they're like plastic, but glass, but plastic.
But not insulated.
Right. And we have stickers. And then Sam just picked up another cool thing from the store today that she's gonna craft into something, but that might just have to wait till August because I'm thinking it's gonna be an August Patreon gift.
Oh, I like it. We're
So,
planning ahead.
well, we have the July one figured out, I think.
Okay, so we wouldn't do an August gift. We would do like a September gift.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
So the Patreon is so that you can help us do some cool things with the podcast, but we want to send you guys thank you gifts every now and then just to like show you like how really appreciative we are. But we can't give you so many things that like we don't have the money to do the things that we need to do for the podcast.
Right.
Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes.
That was
So
clear,
it'll be
right?
like every other month kind of thing, I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Oh, and we can't promise that. It just kind of
Right.
depends on what we end up with and like where we're at. But yeah, go check out our
Exactly.
Patreon page because it's super cool.
Yep. $5 and above gets you free stuff. We love you guys, and we hope that you continue to support us that way and through our store and through our great sponsors that we talked about throughout this episode.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
The end.
Bye.
But that's not how we're gonna say bye.
No, no. We have our catchy catchphrase now.
Oh yeah, but do we want a new catchphrase or do you really like that one?
I feel like we should put a poll up or something. I don't know. Let's just try to do it again until it just doesn't feel right anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
So drink
Farm
and watch
and
for deer.
oh damn it! I was gonna say and give zero clucks. I forgot and watch
Oh
deer.
no, see,
Oh, I
so then maybe
failed.
and give 0 clucks should be the thing.
Yeah, because that's what's going. Spoiler alert on our t-shirts that we're developing right
Oh,
now.
that's right.
Is that what it is? It though? Is
Yeah,
that what
that
it
is.
says?
That's what
Give
it
zero
says.
clucks.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's our sign off phrase. The watch for deer
Yeah.
thing was just a joke. So that was why
Yeah.
when you were like, "Yeah, let's say it." I was like, "Really? Are you sure?" We were lost.
Now I'm found. Amazing grace. Okay, let's try that again.
So drink
Farm and
and
give
give zero
zero
clucks.
clucks.
Bye.
Bye.